Hey everyone, and welcome back to Illume Connect. Today I'm joined by someone who truly knows saddles inside and out, Wendy Winn. Wendy is an expert in saddle fitting. A well-fitted saddle impacts comfort, performance, and even long-term health. So today we're going to dive deep into what makes a great fit. Wendy, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here.
Good to have you. Can you start by introducing yourself and your history in fitting saddles?
You bet. So my name is Wendy Winn. I'm originally from southeastern Idaho, is where I grew up as a third generation cowgirl. And that's part of who I am. But going forward, I've been in the saddle fitting industry for about 20 years. And it started kind of small and then it grew. And it grew because of my mind and lots of questions. So in Kansas, I'm a college rodeo coach with my husband, Casey Winn, who's a third generation horseman. So I think saddle fitting comes down to not just saddles, not just horses, but actually what you do every day and how you understand it every day at a high level.
You said curiosity. Now I'm curious to how you got started.
Well, I really try to wear my science coat around. I'm a friend of mine, Donnie Taylor, who's a mental coach for Larry D. Guy and Hope Thompson and lots of other great people. She's the one who's like, keep your science coat on, and that's important.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say it really started with my children and horses, and I knew I had some talented kids that could really rope, and we had some really great horses. And I have a friend, Casey Jones, who's a 5-time timed event world's champion, and he was the one who I asked, right? I'm like, if I can do one thing, Casey, what could I do to get better? And he said, get new equipment. And then a little while later, I was riding a really nice horse. And it was a lady who had trained with Sharon Camarillo. And she rode my horse. She's like, this is a great horse, Wendy. And I said, if I can do one thing, what would you tell me to do? She said, get new equipment. Right, well, my pockets aren't deep. So then I'm like, well, what do I do? Right, I'm married to a school teacher and a coach, and I'm a coach. And I'm not sure what to do. Right. So thoughts become things. And when you throw it out to the universe and you really need something, those things start to appear. And when they start to appear, you have to gravitate to it and you have to understand what it is. And then you have to go after it with all your might. Mm-hmm. Like I'm a forward thinker. So it started with that. And then I transitioned from working at a ranch at Double Dollar in Holden, Utah. Mm-hmm. And I started to work for Burns. And I wasn't hired initially for saddle fitting at Burns. I wasn't hired for sales initially at Burns. I was hired initially to do some backstreet, internal like website development, help the web developer. I do have a business degree, so I think that's kind of crazy, right? But as it got interested, I got out in the industry. I could tell there was a real need, and not a need for just putting a tree on a horse or not a need for putting a saddle on a horse, but a need for the biomechanical side of it and a horseman to understand and help people ride their horse better, feed their horse better, instruct them better, and then get some trees that really functioned and worked. And then together with Burns, it just fast forward. And here we are, right?
Right. Fast forward 20 years, you said?
Yeah, right about. I'm just about 20 years. Next year would be my 20th, or this year will be my 20th NFR.
So in those 20 years, what's been the most rewarding part of it all?
I think reward is joy. Reward is something that you work at every day, and reward is something that brings you great joy. Joy's the essence of your soul. Mm-hmm. And so I think when you get out, and I'm driven by the Savior, and I really listen and try to pray about where to go and what to do, and the people that I run into and the people I get to listen to have driven me to be better. And sometimes I'm criticized, right? But keep my science coat on, keep my prayer coat on, and I can get through anything. So reward to me is that I get to get up every day and be Wendy Winn and be 1% better. And that I can transfer out to a lot of people. So I don't know, it might sound a little selfish, but I'm a get better every day. And that really is the reward. And I also think a big reward for Burns is the fact that we've all grown it together, right? Yeah. Like we have this podcast, we have Illume Connect. We have so many different avenues, saddles, boots, hats, belts, buckles, stores. And to see a 150-year-old company grow mm-hmm. and do what we're doing out there on the street, That's pretty mesmerizing for most people. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Why is saddle fitting such an important topic, not only to you, but to everyone that is a rider or a crafter?
Well, I think as we go back, right, it used to be you had a horse and you'd throw the saddle on and away you would go. And horses have evolved and changed over the last century. If you look back to war horses and you actually study it, and you can see where the bent knee came from, the straight leg came from, and you study that, and then you pull it forward, the dynamics of the horse have changed, and some things haven't changed. But we've bred them different. We've changed how we ride them. Our expectations are different. So when someone maybe starts a futurity colt, they're started younger than maybe they were 100 years ago, and then they're brought forward really fast. So saddle fit is everything, simply because of the biomechanics of the horse, the biomechanics of the rider, and what the horse is expected to do. If there's an offset in that, you end up with some pretty serious injuries, and that's just because of pressures, position, not just from the saddle, but also from the rider. So it's kind of a balancing ball, all of that. You can have a really great rider ride an okay saddle and get by, but you can't have an okay rider ride a bad saddle and get by. The horse suffers.
Yeah. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but one thing that I hear over and over again in the podcast, at our trade shows, when I'm just talking to people on the daily, is that when they put so much effort into something and it's every single day, and a lot of the leather community is handmade, personally made, their success is they struggle with keeping that passion, keeping that energy. You've been doing this a long time, and you do put so much energy into everything you do. What keeps you going? What keeps that passion and that spark going for you when it gets to those tired days?
I don't get tired very often. I'll give you an example. I was in Arizona last month, and I got to spend 30 days doing some life coaching and helping and working and roping. And I had a choice, right? I could enter a roping or I could not enter the roping. I had to be in Omaha, Nebraska the next day and for a veterinarian lunch and learn. And I'm like, can I do both of these things? So I logistically looked at it, and I thought if the latest the roping could get over was noon, I'd still make it to my appointment.
Right.
So I roped in the roping. I didn't do very good. My husband came and helped me, and I drove all night. I got into the house at 7:45 in the morning. I showered, and I drove to Omaha 3 hours. And I got there in time. The veterinarian was there. The nutritionist was there. I got to be there. We had an amazing 9 hours, right? So I'm on my hours, 30 plus. A lot of people were like, how can you be in Oklahoma one day and Washington the next? And how can you be a horseman? And how can you be a coach? And how can you be all these things? You can be anything you want to be. It's your mental state, right? You told me this morning I took a cold plunge.
Yeah.
Why do you take a cold plunge?
That's good for you. It wakes you up, gets you going.
But you know what it really does? It's hard.
It is.
So when you can take a cold plunge, you can do anything that's hard. So I think my passion too is just energy. I love horses. I love horsemanship. I love learning. I love roping. I love people. I love life. I love my husband. I love Burns, right? So it's not hard. It is not hard for me, and I've not lost passion. I think people with passion, it goes on. It's like a blooming flower. You keep watering it, it's going to keep blooming for a long season, right? Then you have to fertilize it. You have to nurture it. You have to help it grow. So you have to, right, spiritually nurture yourself. You have to nutritionally nurture yourself. You have to make sure that your mind and your body's working together. You have to study. You have to work. You have to be time organized. Like there's so many things, and you always have to level up. So that's passion to me.
That's great. Grass is greener where you water it.
That's right. Right.
Well, I love that. That's great. I want to get into the more education side of things. I think that there's a lot of people out there with questions. So what introduction to saddle fitting? Can you explain like why proper fitting is so important? Just on the basic level.
Yeah, on the basic level, like proper saddle fitting, first you overview the horse, make sure the horse is balanced. If you can help someone with that and you have enough knowledge, you could give them some tips. If the horse is balanced and he looks good, you find balance in a saddle. You find balance in a saddle pad. So I always look for balance first, from the horn back to the cantle, from the first concho to the second concho. I check pressure, right? It has to be equal pressure, just like your shoe. Then I'm going to look at the rigging. I'm going to make sure that the rigging doesn't impede motion. I'm going to make sure the cinch doesn't impede motion. Any part of the saddle that's impede motion or changes the structure of the horse, then we have to say, what are we going to do? A lot of times we can change a cinch, change a pad, change a latigo. We can change how that saddle is going to perform on that horse. So that's pretty basic. Like, that is how I start every fitting clinic, is I look at the horse. We talk about the rider. If it's an in-depth course, then it's just not, oh, hey, your horse is balanced, your saddle's balanced, this is going to work. You can take it to the next step of, right, how does the seat design affect how you ride? You know, have you got a longer leg than one other leg? I mean, you can get in a rabbit hole pretty easy, but the basics, that's it. You know, is it made of wool? Is it heirloom quality? Is it Herman oak or Wickett and Craig? Does it last a lifetime? Has the tree been checked? Has it been made by a builder that has some geometric education on how a saddle should be built?
Sure.
Right. I think that's the number one thing that I don't get into. And I have some saddle builders ask me, right? Like, they're like, well, you always see all these saddles, right? And you say what's wrong with them. You know how many oftentimes I get a handmade saddle in front of me and a handmade, you know, like a person that has a handmade saddle? Hardly any. Because they don't have problems.
Yeah.
They're good horsemen. They'll spend a little extra money. So you don't find those saddles in people very often, because they don't come to you because their saddles fit.
All right.
It's the junk that's out there that you have to filter through to help people understand, you know.
So one of the things that I deal with and talk to people about every single day is the misinformation on leather and leather products, you know, the glues and the dyes, the effects of that on the environment. We're working on some research to put out there now, the effects of the environment on leather and leather products. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've seen with how saddles and trees and different things wear with the elements and how that affects them?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you don't tear a saddle apart right in front of 40 horses and 40 people.
Right.
But there's a lot of times when you turn a saddle over and the synthetic is rotten, or the leather is rotten and it's not good leather, and it hasn't been taken care of. So as that goes out into the environment on a horse, it's going to cause some disruption simply because of friction, right? If you have synthetic that's come apart and it's going to wear and tear differently, that's going to affect your horse. You know, in the environment, I don't have enough, I guess, education and strong point to really point that out. But I would say that I have my great grandpa's saddle. I have my great grandpa's bit and breast collar. Those are made in a way that I could still use them today. So I think when we get into that heirloom quality and what they're supposed to do, it's always going to enhance the environment, right? Like natural products, wool, leather, trees, all of that stuff is so important that it goes into a great custom saddle or a well-built, you know, production line saddle. There's some great production line companies that have good ethics, that have good principles, and they do a good job. So I think it's just those ones that are like, oh, hey, let's stir the stew, right? And put all these things together and sell it for $495 or sell it for $1,295. There's no checking, right? I love how a lot of handmade saddles, like, it's either a one of or someone has a process that says, well, QC checks the tree, QC checks the horn, QC checks the seat, QC checks. And so those checks go through every part of the production process. So to me, that's more of an environmentally friendly saddle than one that's like, well, let's just put a little plastic in there and see how that works, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's make it look like Ken and Barbie saddle. That doesn't work.
No.
Ever.
No. So a little bit more on the education side, we have repairmen, saddle repair shops all over. If one were to call you up and you're no way to get there overnight, and they said, what are the top couple things I'm looking as far as common mistakes in this saddle? What are the common things I'm looking for to start with? So
I think when they send it to a saddle shop for repair, cleaning, and oiling, number one, make sure it's a credible place. Make sure that you know that they are going to be able to do their job. And then when that saddle builder calls me and says, hey, what should I look for? Hopefully they don't have to call me because they're the expert, right? I'm the saddle fitting expert, not the saddle repair expert. But I would tell them to look, at the wool. I would tell them to look at how the saddle's plugged, if it's plugged. Is the saddle blocked? Is the tree in good shape, right? If the tree is broken or there's cracks or wear and tear or the rawhide's rotten, you probably need to shift directions. And so I will tell you this funny story. James at Burns,
Sure.
When I first started there, we took trades, and we took all kinds of trades. And I would take them, right? Because I was a little hungry then, probably more than I'm hungry now. And he would come over there and he'd be like, what are you doing? We can't repair this. It's rotten. So I think as a saddle builder and that style, like they know more than I do. I can see some things and help them, but I think trust the saddle builder. Trust that they're going to do a good job because they are.
So for somebody out there that doesn't know a whole lot, they're just realizing that their saddle's not fitting correctly. It's affecting the horse. It's affecting their ride. What are some adjustments that they should be looking for to do that they can do?
You can always reach out, right? We have a team of experts that are really, really educated. And I would say that's across the globe. Make sure that you don't just get someone that took a 5-minute course.
Sure.
Make sure you get someone that's a horseman, that understands trees, that understands saddles, that understands fit. And then those adjustments can come really by the eye and balance. If the saddle is hollow in the middle, right, and it's bridging front to back, there is a possibility you can build the horse back up. I'm a first fix the horse. I'm a second put the pad to the horse if you can't fix the horse, and then change the saddle. So I think you have to go back to balance. You have to go back to pressure, and then look at if your cinch is really, really long and it's clear up, halfway up the horse's rib cage. You need to make the adjustments because of the geometrics and just how that rigging placed on the horse's rib is going to function with the saddle. So everything that happens in a saddle and a horse is pretty like balance, right? Like your cinches should be even front to back. Your pad should be pulled up off of that horse's spine so the spine can function. The saddle shouldn't put excess pressure on the withers. It shouldn't put excess pressure behind the scapula. It shouldn't put pressure at any time on the spine. It shouldn't sit way back on the lumbar. So there's some things like that, like it takes a little bit of education, but most of the time, I would say if I have 10 people, usually 6 of those 10 people, I can help them fix their saddle, unless their saddle's junk.
Yeah.
And if their saddle's junk, it's just, hey, sorry, you're going to have to figure something out. And people they're optimistic. And I've told them, hey, you probably need to do something. There's a girl in Colorado. She sold what she had. She rode her horse bareback for over a year and saved money to buy a handmade saddle because her horse meant that much to her.
Yeah.
And she bought a Burns, and it changed how she rode. It changed her horse. And it changed, I said this in Omaha last week, what's more expensive, a vet bill or a new saddle?
A vet bill.
Right.
And I can tell you that, and I only have dogs.
That's good. That's good.
So I don't know a whole lot about the saddle. I don't know a whole lot about the horsemanship industry. But tell me about the importance about the positioning of the rider when it comes to the horse's health and the fitting of the saddle.
That's an awesome question. And I think it goes anywhere from the English world to ranching to the performance world. Whatever we do, there is a place for a person to sit on a horse. And really, your pelvis has to be in neutral. And neutral means that you can get your hips under you. Your heel can be underneath you. In the ranching, they like their feet to kick out some. That's really not about the position of the hip. It's more about the position of your leg. So I think like if you go back, you study those books that back in Civil War time, and you look at the biomechanics of the horse, right? Vertebrae 10 through 14, they have a little more spacing to them. So we really want to be in that section. Now saying that, that's the most of where kissing spine happens, 9 through 12. So
what's that?
So kissing spine is the degeneration of the spinous process. So what happens is that all comes together, that process comes together, which each vertebrae, if this is a vertebrae, they're separate. There's 18 of them on a horse's back. So they're attached to the rib. It has a phalange here, a phalange here, a phalange here, a phalange here. It can move forward, it can move back, it can move left, it can move right. So when those intercede and they get locked up, a lot of times they don't get changed and there's pressure on the back. When there's pressure on the back, the horse evades the pressure, the head comes up, the tail swoops out, the back hollows. Those spinous process come together and then they get locked. And then that horse can't raise his back. Sure. A horse is meant to be like a bow and arrow. So the bow on the bottom, or the arrow on the bottom, and then the bow on the top. So it's kind of round like that. Okay. So the horse flexes up, round, and then the hips come under and the ears go forward. So our power in a horse is in the hip and it drives them forward. So anything that causes undue pressure, right? And that can be from a rider's seat. If I ride the back all the time, right? And I'm just riding and I say, hey, Johnny, let's go. And I kick him, but I never engage his hip. He really can't do his job. So humans, saddle position, what we do on the horse, it's a broad scope because everybody's position is a little different. If I'm jumping, if I'm doing dressage, if I'm roping a steer, if I'm breakaway roping, if I'm barrel racing, all of those things like reining cow horse, they ride the back of their saddle. So each saddle almost has to do something different. Like you could put a ranching saddle on a roper and they'd probably get by if the guy was handy like Colts or Todd. The guy could probably ride donkey backwards with his eyes closed and catch him. But he's done it so often and his balance is so good. Like some of that stuff, it's what I said earlier. A really great horseman, the Derek Begays, the Larry D guys, those guys who have won in world titles, they do it 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, every day. And that's what they do. They're not the hobby riders. Yeah. There's a bazillion hobby riders that make the world go around, right? And they ride good too. So I think you just have to know where you're at and know what you need your saddle to do. And then if you get a custom saddle, those guys will spend extra time. Any custom saddle builder will spend time on the ground seat and what it does. And they're masters at it. And let them be masters. The best saddle builders, in my opinion, are the ones that listen to the horsemen. And they'll help you help yourself. So I think that's the most important.
I mean, if you have that horse healthy and you have the right saddle, what is the care for both to keep that health and that longevity going?
So in order to keep a horse healthy and sound and keep your saddle functioning, number one, I think everywhere we go, we talk about this, right? If you can feed your horse correctly, shoe your horse correctly, you can use dentistry correctly, have a veterinarian on your site and a good saddle fitter, and you exercise that horse, that's going to really help you longevity-wise, not have to inject your horse. I mean, just keeping him really good and sound and doing those things he loves to do. Then as far as care for your saddle, you need to keep it out of the dirt. You need to keep it out of the wind and rain as much as you can. But there are people who that's what they do too, right? We got guys in Montana, guys in Wyoming. They ride all day in the cold and the snow. And then we got guys in Florida, right, that are riding in the swamps. So care, I think, is different where you're at and what you're doing. But I think it's important that you go through your saddle or have a saddle builder go through your saddle every year, clean it, oil it, make sure you don't just blow the dust off and put a little more oil on it. Like there's a process for all those things. And I mean, it's honestly why I still have my great grandfather's stuff and I can still ride it. I can still use it. So it's important. I think every day you need to look at your horse. Every day you ought to look at your saddle, make sure it's not worn out. Your latigos don't need replaced. Your wool isn't wearing out. You can only ride it so long and it's going to wear out. Right. So you've got to have those things replaced also. And that's safe. That's a safety thing.
For sure. In all of your experience, I know you've traveled far and wide. You've met so many interesting people and studied. Out of all of this 20 years, what's your most memorable experience with your education?
And it kind of goes back to where we started, and that is through prayer. I go where I'm supposed to go, and I do what I'm supposed to do. And through prayer, people come to me, and they think they need a saddle, but they need a friend, and they need someone to be kind. And I think that happens every week. And I've met people who their children have maybe done something that wasn't great, and I've been able to listen. And I've listened to people who have been abused
And so I honestly don't have one. I'll have people all the time, Savannah, that will walk up to me and say, I've prayed to meet you. I've prayed to be here. And I know that's true. So I love what I get to do, but I do it because of the Savior. I don't do it because I love saddles.
Yeah.
I do it because it's what I'm supposed to do here on earth.
Not a lot of people get to pursue what they love and feel helpful at the same time.
Yeah, I think that, as you go about your days, you only get so many of them, right? And they're numbered, but we don't know how they're numbered. And when we put all our effort into every day and we live every day our best day, and then we look at, right, there's challenges. Everybody has challenges. And this last week I had a pretty big one. He was a saddle builder and he was really frustrated because he felt like I was saying the wrong things or I was just doing it because of sales. And at first I kind of said, hey, listen, don't judge a book by its cover. And he expounded a little bit. And then I just backed off. And my husband and I went to the temple yesterday and this man had wrote a big, long book to me pretty much. And I wanted to respond. I really did. And my husband said, it's not worth it, Wendy. So I think with that, you have to know too, at the end of the day, when to let it go. It doesn't matter. The little things, they don't matter. And that man's, I'm sure, a very nice man and has lots of great things. But don't pick anybody apart. Try to just find the best in everybody. And then you feel your best. It just makes you be your best. And that's who I want to be. I want to be helpful and friendly and happy, service-oriented. I want to ride for the brand. I want to do the things that are right. And then, believe it or not, those are the people who follow you on social media. Those are the people who come to you.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've met little ladies that are the cutest little ladies in their 70s, and they've been riding their whole lives. And they're like, could you give me a little advice? I'm like, could you give me a little advice? Like, how about you help me? And they do, right?
Yeah.
They might give you an encouraging word, or maybe you're not great at follow up with one, and she'll text you and say, hey, you preach this. So you got to practice what you preach all the time. And I'm not perfect. So
nobody is,
right?
right?
I think with that, we just have to keep working at it.
Right.
For sure.
No, I love that. I've always said people do good when they feel good, and that's being seen and heard and everything in between.
Yep. That's the motto at our house. I have 3 children. And believe it, right now they're all spread across the country, one in Florida, one in Kansas, and one in California. And that is, when you get up, you better dress up and you better do your best. And that's all I expect of them. And that's all I expect of myself. Do my best. And you go a long ways with it. It's a pretty cool deal.
We're kind of ambassadors and leaders for the next generation. And this craft doesn't keep going unless we pass that on to the next generation. If you had any piece of advice, something that you wish you knew 20 years ago when you were starting down this road, what would that be?
Whew, that was a long time ago. Well, wait, I'm only 51. I'm a teenager, just like Adam in the scriptures.
Exactly.
One piece of advice, I would probably just say, tie it to 2. If you have a dream, chase it. And I would also say, chase it with the Savior. Keep God in the middle of everything that you do. And when you dream big, don't be afraid to get it. And I think that comes from understanding what it is and asking God what it is. My college rodeo girls gave me this, and it's Matthew 25, and I'll finish with this. It's the parable of the talents, right? God gives 3 people some talents, and one comes back and says, hey, I went and developed these. And he says, oh, great, here's some more. The next one comes back and he said, hey, here's 2. He's like, oh, great, here's some more. Yeah. And the one comes back and he said, man, I hid mine in the dirt because I was afraid I would lose it. And what does the Savior say? He says, sorry, man, I'm going to give your talent to the guy with 6 now. So develop your talents. And as you develop your talents, your dreams will grow. And as your dreams grow, you'll have everything and be everything you ever wanted to become. And that is satisfying. And if you can be 1% better, if it's 1% nicer to your mom, 1% nicer to your employer, 1% nicer to yourself, right? That's it. Self-love. love yourself first. I didn't love myself 20 years ago. I didn't. I really struggled. I had a tough growing up, and I really struggled with self-love. And it took me a long time before I really learned to love me. And I've done that, and I work on it every day. I work on loving me so I don't get in them rabbit holes.
That's such great advice. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your experience and your expertise and your faith, sharing that with us today.
You're welcome.
Thank you all for joining us here on Illume Connect. Make sure that you like and subscribe so you don't miss any other conversations like this one.